Good day and welcome to SCO BRICS Insight, where we look at what's really going on in the world of the BRICS. Now today I want to talk about the situation in the Russian-friendly enclave of Serbia, which remains unstable for the second consecutive month. Tens of thousands of people have taken to the streets of Belgrade and other cities across the country to protest against a project to develop a large lithium-containing mineral deposit that could make Serbia one of the world's most important players in the promising lithium market, which is one of the key metals for the green economy. Now, one of the reasons for the unrest and the demonstrations is that the intense pressure coming from the European Union, Serbia's leadership has given the green light for the development of this large lithium deposit. However, there's serious resistance from the general public, who are unwilling to suffer the environmental cost to pay for Europe's green ambition at the expense of their own ecosystem. Now, one of the key concerns among the general public is the environmental impact of the project. Now, the Serbian President Alexander Vučić and relevant ministers, plus Rio Tinto, the international operator, maintain that the mine's development and the extraction of lithium carbonate, the raw material for the lithium-ion batteries, which is the dominant type of energy storage for electric vehicles and other consumables, will be carried out in accordance with the best available technology and the strictest environmental regulations of the EU, although Serbia is not actually a member of the EU. However, the detailed analysis and assessment of the project's environmental impact, which is extensively covered on Rio Tinto's website, has not been a significant point of interest for the general public. I mean, the arguments put forward by the project supporters are outweighed by the fact that two other EU countries, the Czech Republic and Germany, have lithium reserves that exceed Serbia's, and the latter by a factor of 3. Yet they've refrained from developing them for many years, precisely for the concerns about the environmental impact they would have. Furthermore, Rio Tinto's reputation for caring for the nature and the environment and culture in the countries where it operates is, to put it mildly, not exactly impeccable. Now, before I continue, I'd like to make an appeal. If you like and enjoy my videos, you can help me fund the channel and my website, SCOBRICSinsight.com, to further develop it. And you do this by making a small donation by clicking on the thanks button at the bottom of the video screen. Now, everybody who donates does get a personal thank you from me, and I'm thanking all of you for just watching up till now. Now, it's been increasingly evident that the levels of civil unrest among the Serbian population has reached a point where rational arguments are unable to calm people down. Instead, all these arguments are perceived as excuses and further fuel the ire of the protesters' activities. Now, the authorities are taking a much more proactive approach now, and following a significant gathering in the Serbian capital Belgrade on the 10th of August, law enforcement questioned over 40 environment expert activists on suspicion of plotting against the country's constitution and made searches of their homes. Now, the protesters quite rightly viewed this as an unlawful crackdown, and they intensified their efforts. Last week, rallies, demonstrations spread to Vallejo and other regional hubs in the western part of the country. Now, the inconsistent approach of the Serbian authorities to this ambitious lithium project has added an element of uncertainty to an already complex situation. I mean, the project itself has been approved, then banned, succumbing to pressure from the public and considerations of the current domestic political situation. Now, this lack of clarity has eroded trust in politicians and caused frustration in the public. President Vučić is in a position where he has no viable alternative courses of action. I mean, the EU is placing a significant investment into the Serbian lithium project. The EU currently sources the majority of its battery-grade lithium from external suppliers, and it's seeking to diversify its supplier base. Furthermore, it provides a unique opportunity to relocate environmentally hazardous production outside of the borders of the EU, and they get the supply. I mean, It's worth noting that Germany has brine lithium deposits which can be extracted by simple evaporation. This is in contrast to the ore deposits in Serbia, which require the treatment of the ore with large quantities of sulfuric acid. I mean, there is an alternative Russian technology using ammonium bisulfate instead of acid, but that's not been industrially tested yet. But all this will still inevitably result in millions of tons of ore waste. Therefore, the Serbian lithium production will inevitably be more environmentally costly than the German option, which has not been subject to the same level of scrutiny. It's also worth noting that while German officials and citizens advocate for a green economy, they're reluctant to accept the inevitable costs associated with this transition. Now, the main objective of Brussels here is to prevent China, which has substantial economic interests in Serbia, from accessing the valuable raw materials assets in Europe's less developed regions. I mean, during his European tour in May of this year, the Chinese President Xi Jinping visited Belgrade, Paris and Budapest, and he announced that Serbia was to become China's first comprehensive strategic partner in Central and Eastern Europe. China is also keen to gain access to Serbia's raw material potential. The Chinese mining company Xinjiang Mining has 2 copper projects currently in Serbia, and the lithium represents an even more valuable opportunity. Now, in an interview with the German business newspaper Handelsblatt, Alexander Vukic stated that the Chinese had expressed an interest in accessing the lithium deposits. We informed that this matter is already under discussion with our European partners and we remain committed to them. However, in light of the aforementioned development, it's unsurprising that the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz himself travelled to Belgrade on July the 19th to sign a memorandum of cooperation and strategic partnership between Serbia and the EU in the field of environmentally friendly raw materials. He was also accompanied by various officials from the European Commission. Now, the EU obviously has an advantage in the lithium sector, where it can offer Serbia a mutually beneficial partnership. I mean, that's in contrast to the EU's approach to the other controversial issues, such as Kosovo's independence and Serbia's anti-Russian sanctions. I mean, Serbia just ain't going to be doing it, and they've been unsuccessful with the EU trying to persuade them. I mean, the EU tries to persuade them with demands, etc., and the promise of integration into the EU, but it's not actually working. However, the potential benefits of the lithium partnership are more tangible. And according to the Serbian Finance Minister, Sinsa Mali, the implementation of the project will add 10 to 12 billion to the country's annual GDP, which is, in 2022 was only 64 billion, so it's quite a big chunk. In addition, Vukic insists on the maximum localization of the entire lithium technological chain, from the raw material extraction to battery production, and their use in vehicle assemblies facilities in Serbia. However, no binding agreements on this matter have been signed with the EU or any of its member states yet. I mean, the 13-page memorandum of July 19th is purely a framework and the only obligation to develop a roadmap for cooperation. Now, the history of the Serbian lithium began almost 20 years ago. That was in December 2004, and a geological exploration party of the Australian transnational Rio Tinto, they were searching for boron and shale, and they discovered an unusual mineral during exploratory drilling at the Jadar River Valley. The mineral was identified as sodium lithium boron silicate hydroxide. Now, in layman's terms, that means 2 valuable substances in one bottle. Lithium is used in batteries, and it's also needed for special alloys. Boron, for example, is used to strengthen smartphone screens and fibre optic threads. I mean, the mineral was named jadarite based on the place of its discovery. And then Rio Tinto began to working on the assessing of the reserves of the deposit and building a technological scheme for its development. Now, the design documentation documentation produced by Rio Tinto indicates that the Jadaro mine will produce 2.3 million tonnes of lithium carbonate over a 40-year planned life of the deposit, equating to 58,000 tonnes per year. That would position Serbia as a significant player in the global lithium market, ranking only second to Australia. Now, this raw material is sufficient to manufacture batteries for 1.1 million electric vehicles, representing 17% of the current European output. Now, in 2017, the company entered a memorandum of understanding with the Serbian government regarding the implementation of the Jadar project. In addition, representatives of the contracting parties, they had a working group including Stephen Nelegua, who was the World Bank director in Serbia at the time, Alan Duncan, the British Minister for Europe and the Americas, Matthew Palmer, the former US Special Representative for the Western Balkans, all supported the project. Now I wonder why. Scholz's predecessor as German Chancellor Angela Merkel also expressed public interest in the potential of Serbian lithium. However, the project has not yet gained significant public support. I mean, in 2021, Serbia experienced civil unrest in response to the government's decision to proceed with the construction of the lithium mines, and that resulted in road and bridge blockades. With the parliamentary election scheduled for that time, the ruling Serbian Progressive Party faced the project of losing its majority in the country's parliament. So in January 2022, the Serbian government revoked Rio Tinto's license to develop the Jadar project. However, the company didn't withdraw from the country. Furthermore, it continued to purchase properties in the vicinity of the proposed mine, employing a strategy of small good deeds in relation to residents of nearby villages and whatever. I mean, they, for instance, provided school sports equipment to local schools. They've purchased diagnostic machines for a local hospital. I mean, to date, Rio Tinto's invested over $600 million in exploration and the development of a technological scheme for the project, plus it's purchased land and real estate of the future mine, and plus other expenses engaged in the local mine. Meanwhile, the total estimated capital expenditure for the project is $2.4 billion. Now on the 24th of June, Anna Babarik, the Speaker of the National Assembly, expressed her support for the country's lithium mining industry. She said the potential benefits of this sector would be a missed opportunity, and given the strategic importance of lithium as a 21st century commodity. Furthermore, this is the same Brnabic who in 2022, as Serbian Prime Minister, definitively stated, "The final point has been made in the history of Serbian lithium." Now, the level of opposition intensified the beginning of July. There's a civic association called Ne Do More Jadar, which is "We Will Not Give Up Jadar," submitted a request to the government demanding a legislative ban on the geological exploration and extraction of lithium and boron in Serbia. This request was accompanied by 380,000 signatures in support. Now, Mr. Kokanovic, the association's spokesperson, stated the government didn't respond in the 40-day period. The group would intensify its protests on August the 10th. Now, on 11th of July, the courts of Serbia, its constitutional court, ruled that the government's ban in 2022 on lithium mining was unconstitutional. A week later, the government reinstated the additional special plan for the mine site and renewed Rio Tinto's license to develop the jadarite deposit. Now, Ne Do More Jadar proceeded with its threat, and despite the high temperatures, 40 degrees in the shade, and that's Celsius, not Fahrenheit, tens of thousands of demonstrators took to the streets and squares of Belgrade and other cities. Now, in addition to environmental activists, large numbers of ordinary citizens took place. They're driven by the fear of the unknown. Now, many of them support Russia and are reluctant to accept Western or Chinese investments or involvement in their countries, said Katerina Enke of the Russian Academies of Science. They can see what is happening in Serbia, and they remember the 1990s when NATO and the EU pressured and bombed their country for 90 days. So they are now seeing the Serbian leadership signing documents with the same people who actively destroyed the country and killed so many of their people. Now, Vučić is visibly uneasy, as he's basically alleging that a coup d'etat is being prepared in the country. And he says that was told to him by official Russian channels. Now, I don't know who is behind that, but according to Maria Zakharova, she said, an analysis of the current situation in Serbia indicates a resumption of attempts by certain malicious forces to advocate a known destructive arsenal to destabilize the political situation in the country. So it seems that the West's colour revolution strategy is going to work if they don't get their way on the lithium project. Now, as you can see, obviously the pro-Western Soros-financed opposition are using every trick in the book and trying to do counter-protests against the development of the deposit. And they basically want rid of Vučić, so they get a pliable puppet. Now, they're obviously still going to put pressure on him on the Kosovo issue that could have significant consequences. Now, anyway, so it does look as though it's going to be something seriously going on in the Balkans again, and it's not quite 25 years since the bombing of Serbia and the bombing of Belgrade and the bombing of the TV stations. It was all live on television. And then they allowed Kosovo to cede where they and become independent, where they complain that Crimea was annexed unlawfully, the sanctions, etc. So we shall see. Now, anyway, that's the situation, and I'll keep you posted about what's really going on in Serbia, and let's see whether the EU, NATO gets his way, and we'll see it from there. Do like and subscribe. Please donate if you can, and I'll see you all again soon.